Take your last paycheck and divide it by the number of days until your next one. That number is not your salary. That is your daily survival number. If you get paid $3,000 every 2 weeks, that looks like a decent paycheck. But divided across 14 days, it is about $214 per day. Now subtract rent, subtract the car payment, subtract insurance, subtract groceries, subtract credit card minimums, subtract subscriptions, subtract gas. Subtract the bills that are already waiting before the money even arrives. For many people, that $214 per day collapses to $50, then $20, then $10, and sometimes $0. That is why payday feels good for a few hours, then disappears. Most people do not lose their paycheck because they are reckless. They lose it because their paycheck arrives without a defense system. And in 2026, that is dangerous. American household debt is sitting around record levels. Credit card balances are around $1.25 trillion. Millions of Americans have no emergency savings at all. And many workers are trying to survive a life where income comes in one door and leaves through 6 others. So today, we are not building a complicated budget. We are not creating a spreadsheet you will quit after 2 weeks. We are not pretending that cutting one coffee will save your financial life. We are building something more useful: a paycheck routine. A simple system that protects your money before rent, debt payments, subscriptions, emergencies, and impulse spending take it away. Because the goal is not to look disciplined. The goal is to make your paycheck harder to steal. Welcome to Malcolm Hayes Money, where your paycheck really goes. The first mistake most people make is treating payday like relief. The deposit hits, the balance looks bigger, the pressure drops for a moment. And because the pressure drops, the brain starts negotiating. Maybe dinner out is fine. Maybe one online order is fine. Maybe replacing that old thing is fine. Maybe buying something small does not matter. And one small decision does not destroy a paycheck. But the problem is never one decision. The problem is that the paycheck has no order. Money comes in, bills take some, spending takes some, debt takes some, subscriptions take some, emergencies take some. And then, at the end, people try to save whatever survived. That is backwards. Savings should not be treated like leftovers. Your future should not depend on whether your month behaved nicely. Your emergency fund should not have to compete with impulse spending. Your retirement should not be waiting behind takeout, upgrades, and minimum payments. The correct order is different. Get paid. Protect survival. Fund defense. Build the future. Then spend from what remains. That one change sounds boring. Good. Boring is where financial stability is built. The second mistake is trusting your checking account balance. This is one of the biggest traps in everyday money. You open your banking app and see $2,000. So your brain says, "I have $2,000. But that number is lying to you. Some of that money already belongs to rent. Some belongs to insurance. Some belongs to the credit card company. Some belongs to groceries. Some belongs to utilities. Some belongs to gas. Some belongs to expenses you have not remembered yet. So you may not have $2,000. You may have $200 of actual freedom hiding inside $2,000 of future obligations. That is how people overspend without feeling irresponsible. They are not always being careless. They are looking at a number that is not telling the truth. A paycheck routine fixes this by separating money before your emotions touch it. The moment you get paid, the money should be split into categories, not mentally, physically. Bills money goes where bills are paid. Emergency money goes where spending is harder. Investment money moves before lifestyle gets louder. Flexible spending stays visible. Now your account tells the truth. If you only have $300 for flexible spending, you need to see $300, not $3,000. That truth may feel uncomfortable on payday, but it is better to feel uncomfortable on payday than panicked 10 days later. The third rule is simple. Every paycheck needs 3 buckets: survival, defense, building. Survival is the money that keeps your life operating. Rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments, phone bill, the things that keep your basic life stable. This bucket matters because ignoring survival creates chaos. But if your entire paycheck only feeds survival, you are not building wealth. You are just keeping the machine running. The second bucket is defense. This is the money that protects you when life does what life always does. Emergency fund, car repair fund, medical buffer, annual bills, insurance deductibles, upcoming expenses. This bucket does not make you feel rich. It makes you harder to break. And that matters. Because without defense, every inconvenience becomes debt. A flat tire becomes credit card debt. A medical bill becomes credit card debt. A delayed paycheck becomes credit card debt. A family emergency becomes credit card debt. A normal life problem becomes a financial setback. That is why cash is boring until you need it. Then it becomes power. The third bucket is building. This is the money that moves your life forward. Extra debt payoff, retirement contributions, investments, business savings, education, anything that increases your future options. Most people want to start here. They want to invest. They want to build wealth. They want the exciting part. But if survival is unstable and defense is empty, building becomes fragile. One emergency can undo months of progress. That is why the order matters. Survival keeps you standing. Defense keeps you from falling backward. Building moves you forward. All 3 need to exist, even if the amounts are small, even if you start with $10. The amount matters less than the habit, because the habit teaches your paycheck that your future gets paid before your lifestyle gets upgraded. That is where the change begins. Now, let's talk about the first 30 minutes after payday. This is the most important part. Not the end of the month, not when the credit card bill arrives, not when you already feel broke. The first 30 minutes, because that is when the order is set. Most people let payday happen to them. A disciplined person uses payday like a command center. Here is the routine. Step 1. Do not spend for 30 minutes after the paycheck lands. No online shopping, no food delivery, no quick reward purchase, no I deserve it spending. Pause. Not forever, just long enough to stop emotion from taking the first bite. Step 2. Calculate your true daily number. Take the paycheck, divide it by the number of days until the next paycheck. Then subtract the fixed obligations: rent, car, insurance, debt, utilities, groceries, gas, subscriptions. Now look at the number that remains. That number is the truth. If it is healthy, good. If it is tiny, the paycheck is under pressure. If it is 0 or negative, your lifestyle is already consuming the paycheck before you even live. That is not a moral failure. That is a math problem. And math problems need systems, not shame. Step 3. Move survival money first. This is where many people get lazy. They say, I know the bills are coming. Knowing is not a system. Move the money. Set it aside. Protect it. Make sure the basics are covered before you start making flexible decisions. This removes mental noise. Because now your rent money is not competing with your weekend. Your insurance money is not competing with your impulse purchase. Your grocery money is not pretending to be extra money. Step 4. Move defense money second. This is the part that keeps you from living on the edge. Start small. $1,000, then $2,000, then $5,000, then 1 month of expenses, then more if your life requires it. But start. Do not wait until you can save a perfect amount. A small buffer is better than no buffer. A growing buffer is better than a fantasy plan. The reason people stay trapped is not always because they earn too little. Sometimes it is because every small problem sends them backward. Defense money changes that. It creates space, and space changes behavior. When you have no space, you say yes to bad options. You put emergencies on credit cards. You accept terrible financing. You panic. You delay bills. You make decisions from fear. When you have space, you can think. You can say no. You can wait. You can choose. That is why the defense bucket is not just financial. It is psychological. Step 5. Move building money third. This is where wealth starts becoming real. Not dramatic, not exciting, real. If you have high-interest debt, building may mean attacking that debt. If you have no emergency buffer, building may wait until defense is stronger. If your basics are stable, building may mean retirement contributions, index funds, extra principal payments, skill building, business capital. But something must move forward. Every paycheck should contain a small vote for your future. Otherwise, your entire financial life becomes maintenance. You work, you pay, you reset. You work, you pay, you reset. That is not progress. That is a treadmill. Building money is how you step off the treadmill. Step 6. Only then decide flexible spending. This is where the routine becomes honest. After survival, after defense, after building. Whatever remains is the real spending number. That number may not be what you want, but it is what your life can safely afford. If it feels too small, do not ignore the signal. The system is telling you something. Maybe the car payment is too high. Maybe the house is too expensive. Maybe subscriptions are leaking money. Maybe food spending is out of control. Maybe debt is eating the paycheck. Maybe the income is not enough for the fixed costs. The paycheck routine is not just a budget. It is a diagnostic tool. It shows you what is actually happening. This is why a routine matters more than motivation. Motivation comes and goes. A routine catches the money, even when you are tired, even when you are busy, even when life is messy, even when you do not feel like being disciplined. That is the point. A good system does not require you to be financially perfect every day. It reduces the number of decisions you have to make under pressure. Now let's talk about fixed costs, because this is where the truth gets ugly. Most people blame small spending because small spending is easy to see. Coffee, lunch, streaming, Amazon. Those things can matter, but the real paycheck killers are usually fixed. Housing, cars, insurance, debt payments, childcare, student loans, minimum payments. When fixed costs are too high, the paycheck routine will expose it quickly, because after survival is funded, there is nothing left for defense. After defense is funded, there is nothing left for building. After building is funded, there is nothing left for life. That is the warning sign. If every paycheck feels tight before you make any flexible choices, the problem is not discipline. The problem is structure. This is why a person can earn $100,000 and still feel broke. This is why a car payment can steal wealth. This is why a starter home can become a financial trap. The paycheck routine connects all of it. It shows you whether your lifestyle leaves margin. Margin is the space between what you earn and what your life requires. Without margin, every month feels fragile. With margin, life starts to calm down. Margin lets you absorb a bill. Margin lets you avoid credit card debt. Margin lets you invest. Margin lets you sleep. Margin lets you say no. That is what you are really trying to build, not just a budget. Margin. Now, some people hear this and say, "But I do not make enough money for this routine." Maybe. For some people, income really is too low. No honest financial channel should pretend every problem is solved by better budgeting. If rent is too high, wages are too low, and basic costs are rising, the pressure is real. But even then, the routine still matters, because when money is tight, order matters more. A person with limited income cannot afford chaos. They need to know what is survival, what is defense, what is building, what is flexible, what is optional, what is leaking, what is urgent, what can wait. The paycheck routine will not magically make a low income high, but it can stop a difficult situation from becoming invisible. And invisible problems are the most dangerous ones. If you do not know where the money goes, you cannot change the outcome. If you do know, you can start making decisions. Hard decisions, maybe, but real ones. Now, let's make this practical with an example. Imagine someone gets paid $3,000 every 2 weeks. That sounds like $6,000 per month, a strong number on paper. But the paycheck routine asks a different question. How much of it is already gone? Rent or mortgage takes $1,800 per month. Car payment takes $799. Insurance takes $200. Utilities take $300. Groceries take $800. Gas takes $200. Credit card minimums take $250. Subscriptions and phone take $150. Already, the paycheck is under pressure. Before investing, before emergency savings, before medical costs, before repairs, before life. This person may not feel irresponsible. They may feel confused because the income looks good, but the margin is weak. And when margin is weak, stress stays high. Now, imagine the same person uses a paycheck routine. They split the paycheck immediately. Survival gets funded. Defense gets something, even if small. Building gets something, even if small. Flexible spending becomes clear. Now the person sees the truth. The problem is not that every dollar is disappearing mysteriously. The problem is that too many dollars already have owners. That clarity is powerful because once you see it, you can change the structure. Maybe the car has to change. Maybe subscriptions get cut. Maybe housing needs a limit. Maybe debt payoff becomes the priority. Maybe overtime goes only to defense and debt, not lifestyle. Maybe every raise gets split before it gets absorbed. That is how people stop repeating the same month. They do not just promise to do better, they change the order. The next part is important. A paycheck routine should include guilt-free spending. Yes, guilt-free spending. Because a system with no freedom usually fails. If every dollar feels restricted, eventually you rebel. You get tired. You feel punished. You tell yourself you deserve something. Then, one bad weekend turns into a bad month. The solution is not to hate spending. The solution is to put spending in the right place. After survival, after defense, after building, then spending. That money is yours to use without guilt. Dinner, entertainment, clothes, small luxuries, whatever fits, because it was planned, not stolen from your future. This is the difference between discipline and punishment. Punishment says, never spend. Discipline says, spend after your future gets paid. That is a better system. Now, here is the weekly review. Once a week, ask 4 questions. How much came in? How much is already committed? How much is left for flexible spending? What needs protection before next payday? That is it. Do not make this complicated. 15 minutes, once a week, because monthly reviews are too slow. By the end of the month, the damage is already done. A weekly review catches the leak early. A subscription you forgot, a grocery bill running high, a credit card balance creeping up, a paycheck that needs to stretch longer, a bill that is coming next week, a spending pattern that keeps repeating. You do not need to be perfect. You need to notice faster. That is one of the biggest differences between people who stay stuck and people who improve. The stuck person notices after the crisis. The improving person notices while there is still time to adjust. Now, let's put the full routine together. When your paycheck lands, pause. Calculate your real daily number. Move survival money. Move defense money. Move building money. Then spend what remains. Once a week, review the system. That is it. Simple does not mean easy, but simple is repeatable, and repeatable beats impressive. The person who saves a small amount every paycheck for years usually beats the person who makes dramatic plans and quits in 2 weeks. The person who builds margin quietly usually beats the person who looks successful but has no buffer. The person who controls the order usually beats the person who waits to see what is left. This is the real lesson. Your paycheck is not safe just because it arrived. It is only safe after you give it structure. A paycheck without a routine gets absorbed by the world. A paycheck with a routine starts building a life. The difference is not always income. The difference is order. So before your next payday, decide the order. Survival, defense, building, then spending. That is the routine. That is the firewall. That is how you stop waking up 2 weeks after payday wondering where everything went. And that is how you make your paycheck harder to steal. If this video helped you see payday differently, subscribe to Malcolm Hayes Money. No fake luxury, no crypto hype, no confusing jargon. Just clear money breakdowns, real numbers, and practical lessons. Now you know where your paycheck really goes. I will see you in the next one.